Welcome to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. Now here's your host, Tim McMahon.
We're back, General.
Good. The show is about to begin.
Hey, it's Tim. Big news out of San Diego Comic-Con today. As I'm sure you already know, because nobody gets their news from Less Than 12 Parsecs, the Clone Wars have been saved. Yes, that's right. It was announced today that the final Clone Wars storyline, The Siege of Mandalore, 12 episodes in all, will be airing on the upcoming Disney streaming service. And I, for one, cannot wait. Actually, I can wait, because now I have to go back and rewatch all the Clone Wars episodes all over again. You see, I'm not the type of guy to rewatch things, other than the films of the Star Wars franchise, that is. I have seen every episode of the Clone Wars once, and maybe a handful of them twice, but I haven't gone back and really tackled them a second time, properly. I just don't see the point of popping in a story that I already know when there are so many other great films and TV shows out there that I haven't seen yet. Time is our most precious resource, people. We all run out of it one day. You know what I'm saying? So why waste it retreading old ground? That's what I say, anyway. Plus, if you don't rewatch a film too many times, the details sort of slip from your brain, and then you can go back and rewatch it years or decades later and rediscover it all over again. I tell you, you whippersnappers out there, this is one of the few perks of aging, Darsh Gummit. Well, I for one feel the need to refresh my memory before the new stuff is released. I guess I'll have to put my current Star Trek binge on hold for now. That's okay, that project is going slow anyway. After I watch an episode of Trek, I then dive down a Memory Alpha rabbit hole. Memory Alpha being the Trek version of Wikipedia, if you didn't know. It seems like for every 1 hour I watch, I spend 2 hours reading about it afterwards. I'll keep you guys updated on what I think of the Clone Wars during my rewatch, but for now, here's what stuck in my brain from only watching them when they originally aired. I remember that the Clone Wars version of Obi-Wan was as real to me as the Ewan McGregor or Alex Guinness performances were. But the Anakin rarely felt to me like he was the same guy that we saw in Attack of the Clones or Return of the Sith. He wasn't moody, whiny, and dark enough in my opinion. I enjoyed Ahsoka from the beginning. I found it really interesting to see some youthful, innocent exuberance tossed into such a dark war, and really her arc, her path to maturity, was to me the heart of the show. I loved all the clone stuff, but maybe I didn't pay close enough attention because right now, I can't separate them, their personalities, their stories, in my memory. To me, they're just all clones. Oh my god, does that mean I'm making the same moral mistake that the Republic did? And I always wished that they had done more with Padme. She felt very underutilized to me. I love the painted look of the artwork and the design work, but the herky-jerky marionette-like movement of the character animation never sat right with me. So that's what I remember about Clone Wars. But before I wrap this up, I just want to share with you one of my favorite memories from the Clone Wars. Favorite actually may not be the right word. Maybe I should say it's one of my strongest Clone Wars memories. This is a story I've told on another podcast once, and I apologize I can't for the life of me remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure I haven't told it here on Less Than 12 Parsecs before, so I'm going to do it now. So anyway, my son was in 3rd grade, and he's about to go into 10th grade now. Man, oh man, where'd the time go? And anyway, a friend of his from school was way into the Clone Wars. Yes, little boys and girls like Star Wars, but this kid was way into it. He was obsessed. He was a kid after my own heart, actually. So I was volunteering in my son's classroom every other week or so, and once this kid figured out just how much I was into Star Wars and how much I knew about it, well, he latched onto me like a Minoc feeding on the power cables. I don't think there was another Star Wars adult in his life, you know what I mean? Whenever I was trying to help this kid with his math work or his writing or whatever, all he would do was talk about Star Wars, a mile a minute. It was fun at first, but I'll have to admit, it even became tiring to me. Now to him and to most kids at the time, Clone Wars was Star Wars. He had seen the films, he told me, but Clone Wars was the heart of the franchise in his mind. Which is great. I love that every generation has their own part of the saga to call their own. Now to this boy and to kids his age, Anakin Skywalker was the hero. Anakin and Obi-Wan were put on a pedestal. They were to be looked up to. They could do no wrong. So one day we're having this conversation about good guys and bad guys. And this kid, honestly, for his age, he was talking about some pretty heavy concepts, some deep stuff about the origins of evil and the difference between right and wrong, and how bad guys don't think they're bad. I was actually pretty impressed with his thinking. Anyway, like I said, he knew the films and their stories, but the Clone Wars was what he was all about. Well, he didn't know the films as well as I thought. And I learned this the hard way. When talking about good and evil, I mentioned how Anakin Skywalker turned to the dark side for reasons he thought were good, to save Padme. And then he looked at me then and said, "What?" I should have said, never mind. I should have said, oh yeah, spoiler alert. I should have grasped right then and there that the kid didn't know the full story of Anakin's downfall as well as I thought he did. But I didn't. Instead, I stupidly continued on about Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. In my defense, he said he had seen the original trilogy, but I guess the details of that story had not sunk into his conscience yet. Okay, so the kid didn't know this fact. Until now. And the weight of this revelation absolutely crushed him. His hero, Anakin Skywalker, was going to turn into the biggest villain in the story, Darth Vader. No, it can't be. That's impossible. I will never forget the look on his face as he worked through what all of this meant. In the course of just a few seconds, I saw shock and horror and sadness. And then came the tears. The loud, wailing tears. Of course, this brought the teacher running right over. What's wrong? She asked, a worried look on her face. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. I mumbled something about, we were talking about Star Wars and Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. He started to cry. Whatever I said wasn't really expressing the full weight of what this poor boy was going through. I'm not sure the teacher would have understood even if I had been more eloquent in my explanation. No, she just gave me some side eye and then pulled the kid aside to calm down in the big beanbag chair. I felt so horrible. I felt so guilty. I mean, I remember when my own son figured out that Anakin from the Clone Wars and Darth Vader from the movies was the same guy. It certainly shocked him more than the revelation that Vader was Luke's dad. But my son had figured it out the right way, in front of the screen with me there by his side. Not like this poor boy, in his classroom, spoiled by some big idiot of a jerk. Me. Anyway, after that, I intentionally didn't volunteer in the classroom for a few weeks. And when I did come back, the kid seemed okay. Though, he didn't want to talk Star Wars with me that much after that. And that part kind of broke my heart. Anyway, there you go. There's my little Clone Wars story for you guys. Hey, are you excited about the return of the Clone Wars? What's your favorite Clone Wars memory? I want to know. Email me at 12parsecs.podcast@gmail.com or connect with me on any of my social media accounts. All the links can be found on my website, 12parsecs.podcast.com. Thanks for listening. Utini!
All right, Rex. What's so important that you brought us all the way back here?
Hello, Master.
You've been listening to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. For links and show notes, visit our website, 12parsecsPodcast.com. Follow Less Than 12 Parsecs on Twitter at 12parpod, on Instagram at 12parsecsPodcast, on Tumblr at 12parsecsPodcast, and find us on Facebook as well. And please let us know what you think. Email us at 12parsecsPodcast@gmail.com. All Star Wars sounds, music, images, logos, designs, characters, and elements are registered trademarks and copyright of Disney, Lucasfilm Limited, and their subsidiaries and respected rights holders, and used by Less Than 12 Parsecs Podcast under fair use doctrine. All original content is copyright Tim McMahon and Less Than 12 Parsecs Podcast, released under the No Derivative Works Creative Commons license.